My name is Abigail Morris. I'm 15 years old. I grew up in a small town in Tennessee, the kind of place where everyone knows your grandparents' names
And your Sunday school attendance is practically required. I loved the church, not just for the rituals or the songs, but for the sense of connection it gave me. Connection to God, to people, to purpose. I had always felt called. Even at 13, I was preaching short messages at youth group, memorizing verses, praying with a depth I didn't fully understand. I wanted to serve. I wanted to guide. And yet, that night, my life ended in a way I could never have imagined. It was a rainy March evening. I was heading home from a small youth retreat in the nearby city. My car skidded on the slick road, spinning helplessly off the asphalt. Glass shattered, metal twisted, pain exploded in my chest. 1 second I was struggling to breathe. The next I felt weightless, like I had been lifted by invisible hands. I was dead. Or at least, my body was. And then, I saw him. Jesus. But not like any picture I had ever seen. He wasn't wearing a flowing robe or glowing crown. He wasn't distant or untouchable. He was closer than the air I breathe, more present than my own heartbeat. He was light, yes, but it wasn't just brilliance. It was warmth. It was life. It was understanding. I didn't have to speak. I didn't even have to think. He knew everything. My fears, my hopes, my prayers I had whispered in secret. And in an instant, he showed me the first place. It was a city that didn't exist on any map I knew. Streets were lined with tall, glimmering towers, but the air was thick with peace. Not just the absence of noise, but the presence of safety, of shelter, of mercy. A place where children like me could run without fear, where prayers were breathed into the very walls, answered before even spoken aloud. "Abigail," he said, not with words, but with a voice that filled my soul. "These places are for those who are faithful, who seek refuge before the storms come." I wanted to touch the light of that city. I wanted to step forward, to stay, but Jesus reached out his hand, and suddenly the scene shifted. Another place appeared. This one was nestled in a forest, trees stretching impossibly high. Streams of clear water ran through glades, sunlight dancing in patterns I had never seen. Birds sang songs that resonated directly with my spirit. Here, those who were hunted could hide. Here, their faith could grow strong, protected from the darkness that would sweep the world. He showed me a third place, a mountain peak above the clouds. A simple stone dwelling perched on the summit, with warmth and food and guidance for those who climbed the path of righteousness. It was isolated, yet alive. Every stone seemed infused with holiness. Every breeze whispered encouragement. "Here," he told me. "The faithful would find strength for the trials ahead." The fourth place was unlike anything I could describe. It was underwater, but I wasn't drowning. I was breathing, moving through the currents of light and water as if they were air. Beneath the waves were communities of believers who had learned to move with grace, whose faith was their shield. I could see them praying, singing, teaching their children. The darkness above could not reach them. Finally, the fifth place emerged. A valley wide and open, yet hidden by a golden mist. Homes glimmered faintly through the haze. Families gathered, praying together, teaching one another, guarding each other from fear and despair. There was laughter here, but it was a deep, enduring joy, the kind that cannot be destroyed, only nurtured. Through all of these visions, Jesus didn't speak loudly. He didn't have to. I understood. These were not mere suggestions, they were instructions, paths to take before the coming tribulation, before the storm that would sweep the earth. And then, as quickly as I had seen these places, he pulled me back. I felt myself returning to my body, the pain rushing back, the cold metal of the car seat beneath me, beeping machines, urgent voices, the frantic light of hospital rooms, everything collided at once. But I knew the truth of what I had seen. "Go," he whispered. "Tell them. Prepare the hearts of those who will listen." I woke in a hospital bed hours later, my heart beating, my body alive, but my mind forever changed. I had seen the safe havens, the places to flee, the paths of protection, and I knew that I was alive for a reason, not just for me, but for the message I had been entrusted to deliver. When I opened my eyes in that hospital bed, the world felt both the same and completely changed. I was breathing again, my body alive, but inside me, the visions of those 5 refuges burned like a secret fire. I remembered every detail: the glimmering towers, the forest, the mountain, the underwater sanctuary, the misty valley. But Jesus wasn't finished with me. As my thoughts raced, he appeared again, not as a memory, not as a shadow, but real, present. T, in the corner of my hospital room. His light filled the space without blinding me, and I felt the pull of another vision. This time, it was Earth as it would soon be. Cities in chaos, streets crowded with confusion and fear, people running, shouting, arguing, their hearts heavy with anger, worry, and despair. I saw flashes of suffering, storms that raged with unnatural force, fires consuming towns, conflicts sparked over ideology, screens glowing in the darkness as children and adults alike stared, isolated and fearful. Abigail. His voice flowed into my mind like a river. The tribulation is coming, and the world is not ready. Many will stumble, many will falter. But the places I showed you are sanctuaries, prepared for those who seek refuge in me. He pulled me into each refuge again, but this time I saw them differently. In the Tower City, people were gathering food and water, not for wealth, but for survival. They were organizing communities, teaching their children, praying together. Their faith had become action, and that action created safety. In the forest, I saw believers who had been chased from their towns by violence. They whispered scriptures to each other as they moved silently among the trees, knowing when to hide and when to speak. Their fear was present, yes, but it was tempered by trust and preparation. The mountain peak was harder. The climb was treacherous, not just physically, but spiritually. Only those who persevered in faith could reach the stone dwelling. I saw people stumble, exhausted, turning back. Others climbed, encouraging each other, sharing what little food and water they had. When they reached the summit, their joy was radiant. It was the pure reward of endurance and trust in God. The underwater sanctuary was calm and almost mystical. People moved through the currents gracefully, their hearts synchronized in prayer. I realized it was not only a physical refuge, but a spiritual one. Those who came here had surrendered fully, letting go of fear and bitterness, and in return they were protected. And the misty valley, oh, the misty valley. Families huddled together, singing, praying, teaching. I saw children learning courage, adults learning patience, and elders passing down wisdom. Every heart was aligned with mercy, every soul focused on love. This was the culmination of faith in action. Then the visions shifted again. I saw the trials, food shortages, lies spreading like wildfire through the media, leaders making choices that would harm instead of protect. People's anger was fanned by invisible whispers, the same shadowy influences I had seen with my own near-death experience. And yet, in all the chaos, the sanctuaries remained untouched. They were hidden by light, by faith, by choices made long before the storm came. Jesus looked at me and said, "Abigail, you must prepare them. They do not see the danger. They do not know the storms that are coming. But you have seen the refuges. You have seen the paths of escape. Every choice of faith, every prayer offered, every act of love strengthens the hearts of those who will come seeking shelter." I nodded, but my heart quivered. How could I reach them? How could a 15-year-old girl warn the world? But he smiled, and the fear melted. "You are not alone. I am with you. I will guide you." The visions faded, and I was back in the hospital bed. The sounds of beeping monitors, the rustle of nurses, and the harsh fluorescent lights were overwhelming after the divine clarity I had experienced. Yet, I knew one thing. I had been given a mission. Not to frighten, not to control, but to prepare hearts, to share knowledge of the sanctuaries, and to teach the importance of faith before the tribulation arrived. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Yes, Lord, I will go. I will tell them." And in that moment, the pull of purpose filled me more than fear ever could. The storm would come, but those who listened, who sought refuge in the places he showed me, would not be lost. Gain, standing beside her hospital bed. His presence was quiet, strong, and undeniable. "Abigail," he said, "the tribulation will not only come with storms and wars, it will come through minds, through hearts that are distracted, deceived, and filled with anger. You must show them how to recognize it." He lifted his hand, and I was transported again, but this time to ordinary homes, schools, and streets. I saw teenagers scrolling endlessly, faces lit by the glow of screens. Their eyes were dulled, their hearts tangled in invisible webs of comparison, envy, and doubt. Each scroll, each click, each like seemed small, but in the spiritual realm, they were arrows piercing hearts. A boy, about Abigail's age, was staring at a perfect Instagram post. The caption promised happiness, success, popularity. The boy's spirit shrank a little with every scroll. He whispered, "I'm not enough," and a dark shadow listened and laughed, feeding off his fear. Jesus pointed at him, and I saw a thin thread of golden light stretching toward the boy, almost invisible, flickering. It was hope. It could have saved him, but he didn't notice it. Next, we saw a young woman posting selfies endlessly, chasing validation. The shadowy whispers told her, "No one cares. You must be perfect. Otherwise, you are worthless." Her spiritual energy was weakening, her joy disappearing. Jesus touched her shoulder in the vision, and a spark of light surged, illuminating her heart for a fleeting moment. It was mercy, a chance to turn back, to reconnect with truth. Then he showed me adults. One man argued online for hours, fuming over political posts. The shadowy whispers told him he was righteous, that everyone opposing him was evil. His anger became chains. Every post, every reply, every heated argument was binding him tighter to darkness. And still, the light called him, but he refused to answer. The pattern was clear. The tribulation was not only external, it was already inside people's hearts. The darkness was subtle, patient, and persistent. But Jesus also showed me the flip side. Those who resisted. People who prayed quietly at night for friends and strangers alike, who forgave old wounds, who lifted others instead of tearing them down. Their light grew stronger, invisible but real, forming sanctuaries of hope in a world that seemed to be falling apart. "You see, Abigail," Jesus said, "the sanctuaries I showed you are not only places of physical refuge, they are also hearts that refuse to be consumed by fear and anger. You must help them build these sanctuaries now. Teach them to guard their hearts. Teach them to pray, to forgive, to love." I shivered as I saw one final vision, a city in chaos, people screaming at each other, cars overturned, fires burning. But in the midst of the destruction, I saw 5 places, the same sanctuaries I had seen before. Families, friends, and strangers alike had found the courage to flee. They were together, supporting one another, praying, preparing, and enduring. The darkness reached them, but it could not penetrate the walls of faith and love. Then Jesus looked at me with eyes full of gentle authority. "Abigail, your task is urgent. The time is short. You will be given opportunities to speak, to guide, to warn. Do not let fear stop you. Do not let the world's noise drown out the voice of truth. Go now, and prepare them. The tribulation will test them, but the ones who listen will endure." I opened my eyes again to the hospital room, the lights harsh and fluorescent. My heart pounded, my body fragile. Yet inside, I felt strength I had never known. I had seen the darkness, but I had also seen the light, and now I had a mission to help others find it before the storms came. Opening my eyes was like waking from a dream that had been more real than anything I'd ever experienced. The hospital room was bright, sterile, and full of urgent activity. Machines beeped, nurses whispered, and doctors moved quickly, but I felt detached. The world I had just left, the light, the peace, the clarity was still inside me. I could feel it pulsing in my chest, urging me to act. Jesus' words echoed, "Go now and prepare them. The tribulation will test them, but the ones who listen will endure." I didn't fully understand how I could do it. I was 15, still in school, still figuring out who I was. How could I warn anyone about things so massive, so spiritual, so unseen? Yet, I knew in my bones that fear was not an option. I had been shown too much to stay silent. The first days back were hard. My friends treated me like nothing had happened. They were concerned, yes, but they didn't see what I had seen. Social media seemed louder than ever. Every post, every feed, every notification felt like an invisible battle, arrows flying at hearts, unaware. I saw the despair, the jealousy, the quiet emptiness in people's faces, and I knew I had to speak. I started small. I prayed for my family at night, whispering their names as I imagined golden threads connecting our hearts. I prayed for my classmates, even the ones who had been mean or dismissive. I watched as subtle changes occurred, small sparks of hope, moments of unexpected kindness, a laugh shared, a smile given. Jesus had shown me that even the tiniest flicker of light could grow into a sanctuary. Then came the first real opportunity. The youth pastor at our church asked me to give a short message to the teens about resilience and faith. My heart raced, but I spoke anyway. I told them stories not about death, but about choices, mercy, and guarding one's heart. I spoke about the invisible battles happening in the minds of everyone around us, about the poison of anger, bitterness, and comparison. I didn't mention the full visions yet. It was too much for them to grasp. But I could see eyes opening, hearts softening. One boy, maybe my age, lingered after the meeting. He told me quietly that he often felt trapped by anger at his parents, by jealousy of friends, and by fear of the future. I told him something I had heard directly from Jesus. You have a choice every single day. Choose mercy, choose light, choose love. For the first time, he smiled sincerely. That small moment felt monumental. I realized that this was what the sanctuaries Jesus had shown me. Looked like hearts resisting the darkness, even in tiny ways. The days turned into weeks. I began to notice more patterns. Kids scrolling endlessly, adults lost in online battles, families ignoring each other in the same room. I could see where the threads of darkness were taking root and where the light could grow. I started to meet secretly with friends who were open to listening. We prayed together, encouraged each other, and shared the truths that I had seen. I told them, it's not about being perfect. It's about noticing the arrows, stopping them before they pierce your heart, and holding on to hope. One afternoon, I visited the park where I had played as a child. Teens were gathered, staring at their phones, isolated in plain sight. I knelt quietly and prayed for each of them. I could feel the resistance in some, the openness in others. It was exhausting, emotionally and spiritually, but Jesus' presence reminded me that I was not doing it alone. You are never alone, Abigail, his voice whispered in my soul. Then came a vision while I prayed. I saw 5 locations, the very sanctuaries he had shown me in the spiritual realm. A mountain village, a small rural town, a forest clearing, a community center, and a hidden cabin by the lake. In each place, hearts were safe, free from the chaos, able to hear God's whisper. These were not just places to flee physically. They were refuges for hearts, minds, and souls. I realized my mission was twofold: guide hearts to safety and prepare bodies to endure the coming trials. By the end of that week, I had gathered a small group of teens and families who were willing to learn, to pray, to forgive, and to love. Together, we formed the beginnings of what I now called the Sanctuaries of Light. It wasn't perfect. There were disagreements, moments of doubt, moments when the darkness seemed overwhelming. But every time, I remembered Jesus' words, "The ones who listen will endure." I now understood the gravity of what I had been shown. The tribulation wasn't just a distant event. It was unfolding, subtly and invisibly, in every heart. But there was hope, and even a 15-year-old could carry it. Every prayer, every act of mercy, every moment of forgiveness was a step toward building sanctuaries of light, preparing people to endure the storms that would come. And so, I keep going, day by day, heart by heart. I speak, I pray, I guide, I remind those around me. The darkness is real, but so is the light, and the choice is always yours.